Hello again, lovely people, and welcome to Book Chat 3.5.
Doobie 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 doo. Doobie 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 Sophie Vlogs.
This is a continuation of Book Chat number 3, which was all the stuff I read in December. I read a lot, so I thought I'd split it into 2. So welcome to the concluding portion of that. If you haven't seen Book Chat number 3, there'll be a link around my face somewhere for you to go do that should you desire. Not super necessary, but you might want to. Diving straight in, book number 1 is The Witches of Cambridge by Mena van Praag. This is the second of her books that I've read. The first book of hers I read was The House at the End of Hope Street, and I do have a third one to read, and I might do a wrap-up video once I've read that on my thoughts on her in general, because generally I am quite liking her stuff. It's like a little bit like magical realism-y, but in a very light and fluffy kind of way. It has multiple narratives that are all focusing on these witches who are all living in Cambridge. They're sort of part of like a coven, if you will. They all have different manifestations of that. So for example, one person can instantly, as soon as she meets people, see the truth that they're trying to hide. And another person is able to like bake spells into food, and she has like a cafe, and so yeah, there's lots of really interesting little details like that throughout, which I really liked. So this was just super lovely, kind of like a super lovely romance book that just had like sprinklings of magic and stuff throughout it, which was really lovely. I personally preferred The House at the End of Hope Street to this one. There was a moment in it which didn't sit right with me, and I can't really think of a way to phrase it that doesn't just spoil it. But there's like a moment near the end where someone like reveals something, and I don't love that moment, so that was the only bit that like marred my enjoyment of this a little bit. But overall, I do really like her. I quite like where her brain goes with these stories, so I am excited to read the next one. It's the Dress Shop of Dreams. And once I've read that, I'll probably do like a more in-depth video summarising like my feelings on her as a writer, but I do like her. After that, I read The Song of the Quarkbeasts by Jasper Fforde, which is the second book in the Last Dragonflyer Chronicles, which I mentioned the first one of these in a previous book chat number 2, I think. Again, I had very similar feelings towards this one as I did that one, whereby I enjoyed it, it was fun, it wasn't my favourite Jasper Fforde. I thought it was a perfectly good read though, and I will be reading the third one to conclude the series. Following on from that are a couple of comic-y things I just want to talk about. So I read the DC Bombshells series, which focuses on various DC heroines and puts them into sort of a World War II context. My favourite thing about this is the art style, how they've done, you see more on the back here, but how they've done the character designs and the costumes, and how they've really worked with that whole like vintage bombshell aesthetic to like, and interpreted the characters and their classic costumes into that style. I just think the visuals of this is super beautiful and gorgeous. Plot wise, it's perfectly fine. It hasn't blown me out of the water yet, but there is a volume 2 of this, and I feel like maybe the volume 2 is gonna like kick into gear and have a bit more oomph to it, because I think so far we've sort of been assembling our cast and sort of establishing some backstory and getting to know them a little bit, and I think maybe volume 2 will really like drive some more plot wise. I don't know, I'm definitely going to get my hands on it and read it though, if only just so I can look at the fashion a bit more, because it's beautiful. After that I read Bitch Planet, which I mentioned in my graphic novel haul. I loved this. I didn't really know what to expect going in. I'd only heard just like good things. I really enjoyed it actually. I'm very excited to see where it's going to go next. Just like every issue, more stuff was happening, and I was just like, oh my god, yes. I particularly liked, let me see if I can find it, at the end of like, I presume what were the individual issues, they have all these little like, this page which is all like adverts, and all the little adverts are quite funny and made me laugh, and yeah, this was actually really fantastic. I will definitely be continuing with this, and it was sort of just one of those things that as I was reading I was like, this is great. So thank you Mark, this was wonderful. After that it's just one like single issue comic, and that is Slam. This is actually the first comic that I've ever like gone into a comic shop and like picked up a comic and bought it for myself. Most of my comics just come from Thought Bubble or my friends sending them to me. But this, I was drawn by the cover. The colours are gorgeous. And obviously, as you can tell by the cover, it's about roller derby, which made me think of Whip It, which is a film that I really like. And so I picked it up. I thought I'd have a go. I really like this. It's really fun. I really like sort of like the art style. They do these things here where you have like a page with your character, and it's like pre-derby, after derby. I said derby 2 different ways then, sorry. This sort of thing reminded me a lot of the Gem and the Hologram comics. I've read the volume editions and they have stuff like this throughout them. So yeah, I thought this was really fun, and I really do want to know where this goes next. I think issue 2 has been released, so I need to go pick it up. I think issue 3, I think it's like a monthly thing, I don't know for sure, I need to look into it, but I really liked it. The final book I'm going to talk about is Wishful Drinking by Carrie Fisher. Obviously Carrie passed away at the end of 2016, which was very sad for many people, most importantly her family. When someone is a public figure like she was, she does have an effect on more than just the people who actually knew her in real life. So I feel like there was sort of like a collective mourning that happened there from people who were fans of her and her work and just herself. I was in a charity shop maybe 2 days after she passed, and I spotted this on the shelf, and so I thought I would pick it up. This was really interesting. This is based on sort of a comedy show that she did in around, I think it was 2010, could be wrong, don't hold me to that. It was really great to get an insight into her life, because I know her obviously through some of her screen work, and I know about, and I've watched some of the interviews where she's talked about her mental health and stuff like that, and I've admired her for that. This sort of made me realise like how much she's been through in her life, and kind of just made me admire her more, especially for the way that she talks about it. And she's so funny, and she's so just utterly fantastic, and so I kind of read this just so I could be able to really appreciate her. And I feel a bit sad that I didn't read it while she was still alive and still with us, so that I could have appreciated her like at the time. But yeah, I think she's a really great author, and it was a very sad loss. I'm going to end on that slightly sober note. I don't really feel like I have any way of like following up on that with like cheery book thoughts. But this was episode 3.5 of Book Chat. You have been you, I have been me. Why I suddenly sounded like a broadcaster, but we're just going to go with it. And I hope you have